Okay, so it is 6. It is time. So welcome. Trying different music tonight, and I can't remember what I had before for the jazz stuff. So this is some sort of instrumental, laid back something, but it's not my favorite so far. So maybe this will be a one and done in terms. But welcome. Glad to have another Thursday stream kicking off, and wanted to talk through. If you're not familiar, Nashville was completely snowed in for the entire weekend. My trip to San Antonio got canceled for work. Half of the country was iced and snow everywhere, and we got just below, I think, 3/4 of an inch of ice. I've got trees down along my back fence from neighbors, which is a wonderful gift. So trying to get all that kind of stuff dealt with, but made the best of it, and I locked myself in the shop and ended up making 5 pins. My goal was to make 3. I ended up with 5, so calling it a win. Hey, Dragon Door, yeah, it happens. Luckily, I mean, hopefully the neighbors are cooperative and they take care of stuff. But hey, Rahul, hey, Ann, welcome. Glad to see a bunch of channel members kicking off things. And I did have the link in the chat if you want to get a letter sent to you. I am a little bit behind on resends, but there's a link there. And then also if you want to become a channel member, which will give you access to the Discord. And then there's also the membership level that after 10 months, you get a pen made by me. So maybe seeing some tonight will help encourage that. We will see. So general plan tonight is I have yet another typewriter. As you can imagine, you can't have, I mean, who can type with only one? Of course you need 9, right? That's my theory, at least. I've got some new pen making materials, some new blanks from Poorly Controlled, from D Squared Arts, and others. So I was going to just talk through that and the materials. And then I have the 5 pins I made over the snowy weekend, and then another stick of one of them to have a side-by-side comparison to just kind of show how it started and how it ended up, which I think is kind of neat because sometimes the outer shell does not have anything to do or show what's going to be inside. So yeah, so let's get started. I think I'm going to start with the typewriter, get that kind of out of the way because it takes up most of the desk. So let's take a look at that. So this one I actually got through Goodwill, believe it or not. Shop Goodwill. They have, let's see, they have auctions for typewriters. And I thought this was neat because I didn't know that Singer, the sewing machine brand, made typewriters, which technically they didn't. This is a rebranded for Singer Royal Scholastic that was made in Holland. And I looked it up in the typewriter database last night, and this looks to be a 1966 era, but it had the original leather case, and it's neat. All I did was put some new ribbon in it. I've started to clean it up. The keys are kind of junky, so just kind of wiping them off, giving it a little vacuum inside and some compressed air, and it's a great little typewriter, and it's lighter than some of my others, so it'll be a fun little one because I am still determined at some point we are going to have a type in Nashville, and I think I have enough personal typewriters now to make that happen, even if I don't find others to join in. But yeah, it's a neat little thing. I love for some reason, these little paper holders are one of my favorite things with these ultra portables, these little tiny ones. And I am still going to make a video for like the proper, just kind of talking through the typewriters, but I keep getting them. So I'm kind of waiting until I'm at a good point. I have one that I really like that I showed on the last stream that I want to find some parts for because I really want to have that in the video. So we'll see. But yeah, this was a fun one. I did some test typing with it last night. And, aside from putting the new ribbon in, and it even came with the original metal spools, which is nice because those are not always included with typewriters. So just wanted to start with that neat little quirky thing, with it being Singer for the sewing machine brand. Great condition. And amazingly, it shipped to Nashville from Oregon and it got here in perfect condition. And it didn't even get delayed due to the weather. So considering that a win overall, but just another typewriter to add. And I am going to start talking to Lydia, who is in the chat sometimes, that when I go to Arkansas Pen Show, I'm going to take a couple of typewriters with me because why not? It's something different to play with pens and papers, because I've actually enjoyed using some of the papers like the Grafilo, the yu-sari, and some of those with typing. So who knew? But that's all I got to say about typewriter for tonight. And just as a side note here, let's see if I hit the right button for the right camera. That's where it's been living. I've got my big Royal 1940 era and then that one there, because you can see the hint right down there. There's 4 other typewriters there and then 2 others behind. So I'm going to have to slow down because storage space is not exactly the easiest for those. So yeah, looking forward to putting that to some more use. And that's why if you want another letter, and I'm going to try and get back through the backlog and start sending some repeats. Hey, Rahul, I just saw your note about the postcard. Yeah, I've got a whole nother batch of postcards too. So especially some more of those. I still don't have the F and Burbs postcards yet that I've been waiting for them to get back in stock. I want to get some of those, but a couple other little things that have arrived is I mentioned this before. So I'm a plotter junkie. I love the plotter, and this is my Bible size. And because of the smaller rings, when you add in the pin loop, okay, that's good to know, Dragon Drawer. And I'm actually just gonna kind of turn that down. There's been some weird audio stuff. I'm going to try one thing just to see if it makes it a little better. Turn that on and off, and then we'll leave it at a lot lower volume. So hopefully the audio speaking comes through better. So back to plotter. With the smaller rings in these, and let me zoom in one level here to show this a little better. Having a lifter board with the strap and a pin loop takes up a good portion of the ring space, and the pin loop that comes on plotter is tiny. So let's look at some scale here. Like my spoke axle, pretty small pin that fits in there, slightly loose. If you wanted to put a bigger pin in there, like the next one that I had there sitting here, it's a great example. Skogsy Elved, which by the way, I'll show this some more in a minute. Now that I've had a chance to use it, I really love this pen, but that's all you get. So if you want to put a bigger fountain pen in the stock plotter pin loop, you're kind of out of luck. So enter the Me Plus pin loop, and this one should, and I literally just took it out of the package earlier, it'll fit right down in there, and that'll stretch a little bit. Hey, Tom, good to see you. Yeah, there was a little twang. I said early on, I couldn't figure out exactly what of the playlist I had before for the jazz stuff. This was a different kind of last minute thing, and I think this is going to be a one and done for the music option. It's nice, but just different. So I got this. It finally came in. And then I actually ordered one as well for a local pen club friend who had picked up the Plotter Narrow, because we were talking about in just the larger pin loop, really does make it more flexible, especially as a fountain pen user, and it frees up more ring space. So now in that limited space, I can put an Elved in here and have that with me. And then, yes, smaller pins won't fit in here, but smaller pins I'm not really worried about. Most of the fountain pins are kind of in a standard-ish size, and like that spoke was an outlier. So really excited for that. Just kind of a quirky little thing because I do carry this around often, and with the newer pins I have right now, I want to use the new pin. So of course I want to be able to put it in here if this is what I take out of my office to my coffee table at night or something like that, just to have some paper and stuff handy. So that's that, the Me Plus, and I'll put a link to that maybe in the after. I didn't think to copy one in advance, but it's just a neat little thing. But let me get back to this. So I showed this, it had just come in, I think, right before the last stream, if I remember correctly. But the Skogsy Elved, I've learned a lot of things about it. I really love the clear acrylic, and it's really made me want to try turning some acrylic to see if I can get it to polish anything like this. And so I've actually ordered some. And then this Brooks material is just crazy cool. And there's a lot more personality in this that you see in the sun. And just the performance of writing with the Elved, it's crazy. You would think eyedropper is going to be messy and maybe not the best to use, and that's the complete opposite from the experience I've had so far. Really loving this. I sent a message to Skogsy. Hey, Nick, was just talking about the plotter pen holders and how yours for your Narrow is also arrived and sitting by me, so that'll get to you soon. But definitely impressed with the Elved. I would not hesitate to get another one if one popped up that I really liked the material on, but really been very pleased with that. Now, I've been going back and forth, and I think I am going to order another of the Skogsy nibs with the cactus and then get it ground, because the one thing I was able to do before Nashville snowed down, and if you haven't seen Matthew Chen, if you don't follow him on Instagram or anything like that, he got snowed in, and he thought of it as an experience to see what happened. And it was snow and ice everywhere here. And on the Paper Trail podcast, they just released episode 2, and it was actually interviewing Matthew from the hotel, because Lisa Vaness also got iced into Nashville for a couple days. So just an interesting making the best of the weather. So they did a live recording from the hotel of the second episode. I haven't watched it yet, but I look forward to seeing that. But I was able to make it over, and I now have 2 more Kodachis. I got the Spoke branded nib because when I ordered it, all they had left was medium, and my previous Kodachi I had it ground from a medium down, and I really liked it. And I have been using this a lot this week. Written a few pages of A5, used it for work stuff. And then I have another one that I don't know what pen it's going to go in. It's just a blank silver medium Kodachi ground. And I think I want to put this in one of my pens. And there's one of the pens I made, which I'll show here later in the stream, that I really love the material. And I think it's going to become a Derek pen made by Derek. And just because the material, and you'll see it here in a minute of how cool it is. But also the Spoke axle, it's kind of an understated pen, but I really enjoyed using it. It's smaller diameter than I normally use, but there's something about the extra weight of the aluminum. Just kind of works. And you can screw the cap on there, and then especially now with the Kodachi, it was nice with the extra fine nib I had on it before. But with the Kodachi, it's just a better writing experience. So definitely a fan if you've not used or had the chance to write with a Kodachi and you're going to be at a show that Matthew's at. I would definitely suggest at least visiting his tester table and trying it out, because really, really liking the Kodachi. But along those lines, in terms of pins, trying to think. Oh, and then the one other thing I picked up while at Gentleman Stationer that he finally got in, which if you've been wanting some Canopus and the glare is killing it. So I'm going to hold it at a weird angle here so I don't have to change all the lighting. I got some of the Bible size Canopus tablets. Hey, Stationary Stack, good to see you. And yeah, I love that pen. It's fun and then great to write with. But I've been using this. Canopus is becoming, I think Graphilo is still going to win in the recently acquired papers that I've really enjoyed using. But the thicker paper of this, it works great with pencils, which I'm still using a lot more pencils. I am really liking the Canopus though. So Gentleman Stationer has it in these little, the bullet jotter size, which is Filofax Personal or Bible size. And then he also has the A5 notebooks, which actually I have one on the drafting table. Let me see if I can just show that from... Oh, it's not showing enough, so let me grab it. So just the A5, it's been really great, and it's kind of a toothy paper. So if you use pencils or you want to give pencils another shot, it's been really nice to use. So definitely become a quick fan of Canopus. And I didn't pick some up because honestly, I didn't see. I was trying to get in and out before and work in an appointment with Matthew because I knew the original one I had scheduled on Saturday was not going to happen. So I was able to just luckily work in on Friday. I saw a lot of people there from Pen Club, and there were people who traveled in from Memphis. Talked to somebody who traveled in from Atlanta. So it was really well attended for a expedited schedule event. But General Station also got some Canopus in an A4 loose leaf. So I think I'm going to end up picking a pack of that up and cutting it in half and then punching it to have some in the A5 plotters because I like the paper, and that would be another way to use it more, just to play around with it, especially with the different pens. But so a quick poll for chat. Do you want to see the new pen materials I got first or the pens that I made? Give a second here because I'm going to have to get the blanks from the side and have them easier to grab. But I kind of think I want to show those first because one of the ones in there will be, actually I'm going to do that. I'm going to make the decision because one of the ones in here is a full blank of one of the pens I made. So, well, Rahul, you're going to have to wait a minute. Sorry, I vetoed. Because this way I can show the before and after. And this won't take long to go through these. It's more of just the visual. So these are all the recently acquired. Okay, so apparently I completely chose wrong from what you all wanted. So I will make this blank part quick. So these are some new blanks that I have. I think that's covering them in there. Set that one aside. This one is not a new one. This one is the one that will be the same blank from one of the made pens. Okay, so some of this is from Lisa Marie with Poorly Controlled, which really looking forward to. I got a couple of sticks here from Eel and Anchor, who's out of Arkansas, and I think these are going to be cool because of the, doing internal polishing on them and kind of seeing how that ends up. This one too, it's like a bronzish, brownish gold, but it's also see-through, so that should polish up and look really crazy when it's done. And I look forward to doing those. These are also some extra ones that when I ordered from Daryl D Squared, I think he just had them that at the end or something. And then the Poorly Controlled, I just ordered some mystery boxes. I didn't really know what I wanted. And some of these are one of materials. So like this is a one of one blue and black. And I think that's going to look ridiculous because there's just little streak. And this is one of those ones that you can't see the internal color. So when this is turned down, it's going to be crazy. Yes. And I do have one more of the Sea Monkey blank. If you saw the pen from a couple weeks ago that Nick's referencing in chat, he gave me a blank of this. I made the first pen that I ever internally polished as one of the YouTube channel pens. And when I was over talking to Nick Pasquale at his shop, seeing his new shop, he's like, "Oh, I've got another one of those blanks. Here, take it." So this one might also end up being just a pin I make to have a twin to one I made. So neat thought there. But yeah, I'm really liking the Darrow materials. So this is the blanks that I got. And this one also. This one is a stock Trinitile, I guess it says, from Poorly Controlled. And I think that's going to turn into a cool looking pin, especially when it's turned down. This almost looks like folded velvet. So when that's turned down, that'll be interesting to see how that ends up looking. But it's enough of the materials. So I'm just going to push those to the side. And then this was one other that Nick had, Nick Pasquale. It's a one of, but I think that'll be cool. So these two here we'll call before. This is a diamond cast, kind of coffee-ish themed, brownish, blackish silver. And then this one here is from D Squared Arts. It's called Raspberry Beret. So the before and the after for that one. And then the before and the after. So seeing, this one is pretty true. It looks a lot better when it's turned in and polished up and whatnot. This one, it's got a lot more personality when you actually turn it down. There's some oranges and stuff, and these are just the caveat. Most of the ones I'm going to show tonight will benefit from some internal polishing, but I haven't gotten to that yet. I made them over the weekend, and then, with being kind of stuck in the house and other things, I haven't gotten to internal polish. So hopefully this weekend we'll get to that. But let me zoom in the full zoom here just to kind of show, you can see that kind of orangish raspberry in there, but then you get to like this part here, just the way the colors are mixing in there. It's really cool. And then you've got the little bits of orange that kind of go in. And then if you think of raspberries with the little bits of seeds and whatnot, the top finial ended up really cool as well. Hey, Lydia, you missed the new typewriter, so you'll have to watch the beginning of the stream afterwards, but the new Singer, which is a rebranded Royal Light. Looking forward to that. But this is one of the shorter pins. And if you remember, I think it was 2 streams ago now where I was talking about how I had some pins that I made and the threads were crooked and I had to save them. Well, this is the one I was able to save. And this is a me pin because when I was doing the internal polishing, my lathe switch had been hit inadvertently and the sandpaper got stuck inside of here. So I had to use a pick to pull it out. And because it has a scratch inside, I wouldn't want to own that if someone was paying money for it or it was being given away. So this has become my pin, and I figured it was good to keep one of my early internally polished just to have for reference. But this one is also one of the shorter. So this one is only going to fit a cartridge or one of the Kaweco mini converters. And to be fair, I used to kind of hate the Kaweco mini converters. I've been using one in this one, and I'm more of a fan now. I don't hate them as much. They're actually not as bad as I thought before. So that was a nice surprise of sorts. Hey, David, good to see you. And you should have an email in your inbox for your Discord thing, by the way. I did not forget. So this is the Raspberry Beret, so before and after. And this one is also the one, if you saw, I think last week where I showed I was in fixing it, the cap got screwed up. So this was, luckily I had 3 sticks of this, was able to make a new cap. And then when you see the section there, it kind of blends in. And that's the nice thing with getting these in multiples. It's a little bit scary only having one because you have to have something else. 9 pins for Matthew. That's going to be a good one. I was just showing the Kodachis I got ground this last weekend, but this is a neat one. And then this diamond cast one, I was really surprised and pleasantly surprised. And the biggest shock on this one, and let me see if it'll show on camera. You can see there, it's actually somewhat transparent. I would have guessed that this material, you can actually see through there. It's clear, so you can see the internal threads. So I don't know if I'm going to fully internally polish this one or not. I think that one little spot might be the only part that would benefit, but that one's neat. And I think this one's going to end up being either there's someone that's already asked about purchasing it, but it might end up being a YouTube channel member pin. I don't know. But those two I'm liking, and just, the neat before after comparison. So let me zoom out one level and we'll grab one of the next pins up. Okay, I'm going to go with the other short pocket pin. So we got the theme. So this was another D squared pin here. And this material is called Kestrel. And this is the pin that has fought me the most to this day. I had to cut threads on it 3 times because it would break or something would go awry, but it ended up being not all that much shorter than these others. So once again, cartridge or Kaweco mini converter only. But the colors in the materials, or the colors in this material, were really shocking of how cool the orange turned out. It was more of a dull orange, but it polished up really well, and just the mixture of how the colors blend in there. And then one thing you'll notice on a lot of these is I had a new thing where all my flats are flat. I've been able to sand them to where you can literally probably balance that on end, I guess, if I get it there. So I'm really liking that, being able to get them sanded to a level where you can literally stand it on end. I'm proud of that. I haven't tried this before, so we'll see if these are all like this, or if that's a one of. So this one's a little bit, curved on the end with a little bit of flare, but really liking that one. So that's the 2 short pins. This one would still take a normal converter type thing, but that one also, getting the flats flat. So then this was another material that was a Nick material that I happened to grab out of just the random bin. And this is just the way the red pops out of the black. It's just a cool design. And you can see up here, when this is internally polished, it's going to be even more transparent and show more light through it. I think this is going to be a really cool look once it gets its internal polishing. So this one also will fit a normal converter and whatnot. So just really neat. It's a cool color scheme, and it looks, because of the way the material in there, it almost looks 3D of sorts, the way it's kind of sitting in there. So really liking how that one turned out. Rahul, if you go to Drum Ghouls and meet David, that would be cool. Y'all have to take a picture or something and show it on the next stream. So then this is the pin I mentioned earlier that might get the other Kodachi and stay with me. Another material, and this one, just the vibrancy of this looks like oil that is freshly spilled on a driveway. And this was just a prototype blank that Nick had poured, and it's just cool looking, like that purple in the cap. And the camera's picking it up pretty well. In person, it looks even better because the way the light reflects, and then you can see how well it polished up with the reflection of the lights. It's pretty crazy. And then this one also, you can see in the section, is mostly transparent. So with internal polishing on this one too, it's also going to add in another cool dimension. But I think this one, I really like that material. This one will be a good home for that other Kodachi, I'm thinking. So I'm not 100% convinced on that yet, but now I'm going to have to sit here and try all these pins, because I'd never actually done that until on stream. And now it's a good test to see if they're truly flat, if they'll stand up on end. So this was my snow day set of creation, and really happy with how they turned out. And even the ones that are meant for cartridge converter only, you can see there's not that much of a difference in length. So really neat to make the variety of them. So, you know, look forward to turning some of these materials into more of these, especially these one ofs. And along those lines, I did have someone reach out asking about a commission where they want to send me a Brooks blank and have a pen made from it. And I look forward to that. I haven't gotten a chance to turn anything made by Jonathan yet. And I'm looking forward to when that arrives and making a truly commissioned pen. And the blanks I saw the pictures of are also awesome looking. And there's a couple extras that are going to come with it. So looking forward to that. And then actually, I think as well, week two's in the chat here is also going to send a blank because she and the other commission are San Antonio Pen Club members. So being able to make a couple that are going to have like a little pocket of pens made by me, it's a cool feeling. And then I still have that I did since my trip to San Antonio got canceled. I still have Anne's actually pen here that is going to be sent off now that things are starting to thaw. So, I'm getting a pretty cool. I mean, it's nice to see the variety and that, the shaping. I'm liking the shapes and the pens I've made. I've asked for feedback. The one pen I've sold so far, George is really loving it. It's that coffee colored one you might have seen. The true first short one that I made correcting an error. And now I kind of like those short pens. But one thing I don't think it's showing there's one little bit of the diamond cast in this one that's catching the light and it's really glowing. But yeah, so that was the snow day weekend and how it turned out. And, just think of the potential when you add in all this kind of stuff. And who knows, come next week, what I might be showing. Because in making 5 pens, I'm actually getting down to a better rhythm of doing them in batches. So I'm like, let me do all the bodies and then I'll do all the caps and then all the sections. So you're not changing tools around as much. You can be more efficient with time to, churn through them. So really looking forward to that. Let's see. I had a little list hanging up in front of me of what all I was talking about. And that's most of what I had. So I'm glad to see that y'all are possibly going to have a mini Drum Goals meetup. Because definitely, if you haven't written with a Kodachi, get a Kodachi. Big fan of those. I now have 3. And after Arkansas, which is coming up in a few weeks, probably going to get at least 1, if not 2 more. I also have Matthew's needlepoint, which I've been using, and I love that one. But the Kodachi has really grown on me. Having it in a different pen, I have the first one in my Newton Prospector that I got at the show last year. And I really like this pen. I like using it. But using the same nib in a different pen, it made me appreciate this even more. To have the similar writing experience in a different pen, it's just a little bit different of a feel. The weight too of the heavier spoke pen, I think I prefer for the Kodachis having them in heavier pens. So that's something I'm going to have to factor in what pen I want to put it in. But really fan of that. And it was great to just see all the people getting pins. Cause I think Nick in the chat here, you got a couple grinds. I don't know if I've seen George pop in, but I know he got one of his Mont Blancs tuned that he got and he wasn't really using because and that's something, David, I saw you in the chat, they're talking about a couple of your Mont Blanc that might need some tuning. Matthew took George's and made it usable. And I think he said about 10 seconds. He'd bought it in Utah on a trip and he liked the pen. It was the Burgundy, I think a 146 Burgundy. Really liked it. But then he hadn't had a chance to really use it because it wasn't, performing well. So Nick, you got the Uranagi, and I have my Uranagi that I had in my Magnolia pen. I don't currently have it in a pen. I need to put that in a pen as well and give it another shot because That's one thing is after Arkansas, I got the Kadachi, the Uranagi, few new pins. So I need to revisit and use that one a little bit more, especially now that I'm in a better writing rotation. And a Mont Blanc nib and a V200 just for the heck of it. Hey, I mean, if it works, the V200 for the cost and the performance, it's actually a really good platform. And the fact that you can put a Bach nib in it, that's just adding icing on the cake. And that's what I really like about just the flexibility in general of the Yovo or the Bach is you can play musical nibs and swap in and out. If you're like wanting to try something new, you love how a pen feels, but you want to write with a different nib, a couple of minutes of unscrewing it, screwing a new one in, re-inking it, and you'd be good to go. So yeah. So any questions? I've been following the chat somewhat as I've been talking through here. Definitely. So, and you're saying, yep, blank's coming on Monday. That's great. And then the meetup, and glad to see some new names in the chat as well who been able to pop on in the past or here or there, or this might be your first time. Welcome. But yeah, that's all. I mean, I think I was talking, so I was excited about the pins and the blanks. I was talking faster than normal. And I did not see that Lydia. Vanessa is now selling mechanical pencils. I will have to look into that because I will say, just from what's on my desk, reaching over and grabbing the ones that are sitting here, these are the 3 mechanicals that have been getting the attention lately. The tiny little Penco, the Spoke Model 7, and then actually the TWSBI Precision in the 0.7. I never would have guessed that. I think I'm a 0.7 convert, but I'm really preferring 0.7 to 0.5 overall. And this has become, it's a neat little pen. I actually have, and I think it might be right here. When I got the Mini 5 plotter, this was one of the options for finding a pen that would fit in that short of a platform. And I thought I had it here, but I guess it's not in this pen tray. I have my stationary stack tray that lives to the side of my desk here. I thought I had it in there, but I guess I moved it around. But there's the pen equivalent of this. And, it's one you can swap out, and it's just a quirky little thing. And I do like that it has the tip that goes all the way inside. So that way you're not going to stab yourself if you have it in your, you're using it for something like that, a Mini 5. But having a nice compact pencil is going to make it more likely to carry it around and use it than some of the others. I like the stepped tips. I've gotten that on all 3 of my Spoke. The TWSBI though also has that retractable point, kind of like the Rotoring 800. You can move the whole thing in. Hey, Cabber. Actually, I would say probably never. Nib grinding is not something that I really have an interest in. I'd much rather give patronage to someone like a Matthew or, local to me, John Butler started grinding pins at Butler Stationery, or, eventually getting a pin done by Kirk, or that I'm Kirk in person versus ordering one and getting it delivered from a friend, or Gina or CY or, Joshua Lax. I'd rather just go to the experts. Maybe someday I would consider pouring a blank, but I don't even really want to get into that myself. I'd rather go to someone's shop who's already doing it and choose colors and pour a batch there. But that's not something that interests me. I think I would much rather stick to making pins, and I'm still so new at that. I want to become a lot more comfortable in making them. But nib grinding is one of those things that I'm like, I just don't have an interest in even really wanting to learn. Like smoothing something out is about as far as I would go. And that's something I think I do want to learn, just if I'm going to be selling pins, to make sure any of the nibs, because when you buy nibs, you're buying in bulk essentially. And David, I don't think there's really top nib meisters. I think all the ones I mentioned, they all have their own specialty and their own thing. So that's really a personal preference. I mean, somebody might love Kirk's katana and they might not care for the Kadachi. And then the next person might love the Kadachi and, um, not like the other. So I wouldn't rank them. I'd say anybody who's going to shows with frequency, especially people traveling around to the big shows, I would personally want to get something ground from all of them and probably get them all ground on like a Yovo 6. So then you can get a true comparison. Stationary stack. No, I am still too new at all this for a table. That might be something in the future, but I'm really looking forward to Arkansas. That'll be Rahul. I have not, but I'm glad you said that. This pin is, since it's my trial pin that's staying here, I'm going to try an eyedropper this and see how it works, because I can always repolish it or clean it out. And I want to see how well the internal polishing holds up. So this one, once I write this converter down, is going to get eyedroppered and see what happens. And I don't know what ink I'm going to put in there. Something that's heavily water-based. I might go with something like Waterman Serenity Blue that I have, just in case it makes a crazy mess. It's more likely to be able to be cleaned up. This definitely won't have anything pigmented in it or anything like that, but that's something that Olive Octopus was actually talking about, because she got the new Franklin Christoph Pocket at Philly. And I got to see that at the Matthew Chen event, and she eyedroppered that. And until the LVAD, my previous experience with eyedroppers was not the best. I was gifted a pin actually from week 2's. This was years ago, that she picked up, I think, on a work trip in India. And I liked the pin, but tolerances on some eyedroppers, they kind of burp. And that's, all my previous eyedropper experience, like, I'm writing, burp. And then you got a big old blot in the middle of your page or something like that. And was not a fan of that. And I have not had that experience all. And that might be, something with the less volume. There's less air and things to create that kind of burping action. But, and I'll definitely, maybe I'll try and do that this week. If I can get this converter. It's almost towards the end anyway. Maybe I'll try and do the eyedropper there. No, Opus 88, I don't consider that an eyedropper. That's a Japanese eyedropper, which is different. I've never had burping on any of my Opus 88s, and I have 5. Yeah, and because I remember you getting, what were they, the Gualti, I think. But I've never had an issue with any of my Opus 88s. Like, this is the first one that I got, and I think I had another one sitting here. Nope, that's my V200. I think the other one's over on the other pin tray. And stationary stack, by the way, you can't see it here, but I have my tray sitting here loaded with way too many pins. I use that thing all the time. And at some point I'm going to have to get another one. And then whenever you do a release of the A5 journal holders, that is also going on the list as well, because I'm jealous of the ones I've seen people using. So, but no, the Opus 88s, they've been great. And this one, I think I have a SIG grind from Audrian. Yep, this was the stainless steel extra fine SIG grind from Franklin Christoph. And by the way, Addie, if you want to put a link in, if you're not familiar with Stationary Stack, go check her website. And she will actually be a guest here in a couple of weeks on the podcast. I've edited right before this. Actually, today I have episode 1 edited. And then I want to get one more recorded before I start releasing them. So that way I've got a consistent flow of guests, and I'm not trying to rush something I learned in season 1. Don't try and do everything and then have to rush through and find last minute people. I'd rather just have a little bit more in advance and be able to release on a easier schedule. This is supposed to be fun, right? You know, hobby and talking to people. So I'd much rather not be rushing to try and talk to somebody. But yeah, definitely check out Stationery Stack. All the products are great. I know there's a lot of people in this chat who own one or more products of them. I know Week 2's has the and I pronounce it wrong, the Zoila. I know I'm saying it wrong. I apologize, Addie. But I really just love the look of that. I love the whole honestly, Tom, I think I would rather support Stationery Stack. I mean, here, now y'all are going to see the mess that is how my Stationery Stack tray lives. Let me make a spot here. And you'll see how it lives as the this pin rolls off. So it's not always like pins perfectly, but you can see like Franklin Christoph with a needlepoint, my D Squared Arts and Asvine. Oh, I did have an Opus 88 there. I thought I'd seen it. And the color of this green is just, it's unique. Got my Cocunos, random thing, a flashlight, some tweezers, my Lilliput, some cartridges, this tiny little dip pin that a friend bought and forgot that they'd put in my rickshaw. So next time I go to Memphis, I have to turn that. But yeah, Addie, that would be you need to record a video of like the behind the scenes at some point. I think that would be interesting to see. Maybe if you can get some clips to send in before our interview, I can interject them, because I think that would be neat to see the behind the scenes of how these are made, because I love how it's made. And Addie, you'll have to say the color combo in here. I don't remember the name of the color. It was just, this was the one I was able to get when they were available, and no regrets. I love the green. And there's a single pin rest that I think is on the other desk that I can't easily get to, but you know, I like that it has the short ones here. Like here's my Mont Blanc, my pen from Pen Addict, you know, the pen. Literally, if you haven't seen that, this is the pen. I've got another retro there, my Lamy. So you can see I keep a full assortment of random pins just sitting here. And that way I'm sure to actually give them a shot and use them. These, and then I have the Kaleidocraft pin blocks that I got when she was doing the St. Jude promotion. So that way the sales, so a portion went towards St. Jude. So that was another win there. But definitely a big fan of all these other small creators, you know, and that's where Toyoka, they make a great product, but I would consider this an equal product, and I would much rather support, you know, the Stationery Stack. And then I wouldn't hesitate to have one of each, but I think, you know, this one, I could get a couple of these, and the value and the quality, I'm not losing anything by not buying the name brand, if that makes sense. So definitely a fan, and will not be the last product I've purchased from Stationery Stack. The hardest thing is you have to be ready, because when the products list, they sell out quick. That's one thing I actually kind of love to see. It's like when the Elved listed, I happened to open up my phone at the right time to snag one. I love seeing pen makers, Stationery Stack, sticker makers, whomever, do a release and have the stuff sell out within minutes. That's cool. I love that. You know, and it seems to be more common now of people doing kind of batch releases. It's a little bit easier to deal with, where you make a batch, you list them, you sell them, then you repeat, instead of a bunch of one-ofs here or there. And that also lets you, because I've been trying to think, because when I get to the point of, you know, wanting to sell more pins, I want to do it in probably that batch format for the most part, because then I get to make something that I pick up a cool material and I can make a pin, and somebody will see it and go, "Oh, that's a pin I like," versus, you know, making trying to make a fully custom. I don't think I'm at that level yet, and I think I'd rather just kind of make them as I'm able and I feel comfortable making them. So it's little things like that that have been going through my head as I've gone down this path, and you know, I've been pleased with what I'm ending up with. But then, like, you see something like this material, and I'm like, I don't want to give that away because I think this was a one of stick. So it's going to have to, this will probably have a home on the stationary stack tray on the top of the pile of pins so that it gets used more frequently once I put the Kadachi in it and a converter. But, really pleased with that. So definitely go check out Stationary Stack, stationarystack.com. And also, Addie has some of the best stickers done by, I believe, Eric. Is that correct, Addie? Eric Draws, who streams on Twitch. The dog sticker is somewhere in my journal that I love that sticker. No, and that makes perfect sense, Addie. With you being a one-woman shop, you can see, oh, these things sold really quickly. I should make more of those. That's what people want. Or getting feedback from people, and then you get a chance to play around and make new products and see how well they sell. And, oh, they sold out immediately. Okay, I guess there's a desire for those. So it really helps. Pins, you've got a little, I think pins is material dependent just as much as it is design and style, because, even a basic shaped pin, if it's a cool material, it's still going to have a cool look. So, definitely all sorts of. Most common reason for nibs to dry, start, and skip, air and ink selection would be I think I would say air, of course, because if you think about some pins, you can be writing with it, leaving the cap off as you're sitting there thinking and pondering, and you go to write and it's a hard start because it slightly dries up just with the air. Or if a pen doesn't seal well and it kind of evaporates out of it. And then certain inks, like I love my Ackerman inks, and I also hate my Ackerman inks because I feel like all of them dry out way too quick. So I find myself when I have an Ackerman in a pen having to open it up and turn the converter a few turns to get some drops to go back through the feed before I can use it. So that's where it's a catch-22. I like some of the colors. I like the performance when it's writing, but I know that going in, so I'm either going to put it in something like an Opus 88 where there's enough ink in there that it's not really going to dry out or it's going to have a good flow, or I'm going to put it in something that I know I'm going to use a lot initially, and then, and with most of my Ackermans, I don't even do a full fill of the converter. I'll do like a half fill, knowing that it's probably going to dry out and I'm going to end up having to clean it and refill it. So, that would be, David, I think choosing a certain, like my Mont Blanc inks, they stay nice and wet. And David, that sounds to me like there could be something gummed up underneath the nib in the feed. So if that's one of the ones you're taking to Matthew, tell him there's something in this that, it's starting to gum up, and more than likely it might just need a good bath. If you don't have an ultrasonic cleaner, that might be one to, depending on if you can pull the nib or unscrew the nib, different pins, different methods, and give it a good bath in the ultrasonic, or maybe use, most Mont Blanc being piston fillers, I wouldn't necessarily put pin flush in it unless I had to. You might be able to swirl the nib around in some pin flush or something like that, but help clean it. But I would say, because if a way you can test is try the same ink in a different pin, something that's like a Kavek or a Cocuno. Cocunos are pretty well sealed. Addy, yes, I have. This was one of my first multi-pins. If you're not familiar with that, he's talking about Stationary Stack. This is the Uni Pure Malt 4-in-1. And in here, this has been great. I still have the stock refills in this one. And oh, sorry, Mark. Yeah, I didn't hear that on this side, but I've loved this pen. There's something with the wooden grip on it that it's just nice. I mean, and the blacked out for the rest. So these are great. I have the Pilot version here with the bamboo, which has the not the uni ink, but the Pilot Acro ink in it. And then I actually own the non-pure malt version that came in one of the Gentleman Stationer boxes that I think is the one that I leave in the front pouch of my Rickshaw Bonsai, just to have a multi-pen in there. But I really like the uni pen, and this is actually the one that I use when I'm doing paper testing videos for writing in the 4 ballpoint colors. I'm using this one, so if you're on the fence about one of these, Addie, I would not hesitate to tell you to get one. They write great. It's very similar to the D1 refills that I've put in like my Lamy 2000 multi-pen. So this one, instead of the Lamy refills, because Lamy refills stock are terrible, I have replaced these with, for all of them except for the green, and I'll zoom this in so it shows a little better. And I do have a video on talking through this when I first did it. These are all D1 uni refills. So Addie, you might then try the Pilot. They're very similar hand feel. I think the Pilot Acro ink is a little bit more vibrant. I don't think these are standard D1s. I think they are kind of a unique refill because of the length. So if you think of a D1, oh, come on. So you can't use the same refill. And get it on the camera there. But I would suggest picking one of these up, pretty inexpensive. This might be a good shop pen for you, if nothing else, if it ends up not being something you use all the time. These are kind of, because I know there's a few people in here who ended up getting the same subscription box from Gentleman Stationer. I think it was 2 ago or maybe 3 that have these, and I haven't heard a bad thing about them. But I do think between the two, the Acro ink is a little bit more vibrant. So if you like a little bit more subdued, the uni, because these refills to me write the same, different form factor, but the way the ink writes is very similar. And this also would be similar to like the new M17 refills that would go into like that Uni Mitsubishi has been releasing for things like the Safari ballpoints and things like that. So it's, that's the nice thing. There's a lot of preferences involved here. So if you need ballpoint, you've got a few good options. And, the other thing, there are, I think, I don't know if Anna has it on Well-Appointed Desk. I think Jet Pens might. And I know Joe from Gentleman Stationer, you might check his site and search for multi-pen. He's probably one of the more prolific multi-pen writers who writes about them and has them and sells a lot of them because he likes using them. I think he did a write-up at one point talking about refills for multi-pens of what your options are, because that's where I first heard that I could get the Lamy 2000 multi-pen that I really liked the look of, but I hated the way it wrote, and put better writing refills in it. So that's been a win. And this lived in my Bible size plotter for quite a while, or my A5 plotter for quite a while, as the have a pen in there in case I need it, because I'm probably also carrying a fountain pen with me. But, to each their own in terms of how they write. See if where did I put the Canopus here? I've got all this stuff now that I moved to pull up the stationery stack tray. So if you think of which color do you want to see, blue or black? If I write with both of them, so you have a side-by-side comparison of the three. Go with blue. That'll show up pretty well. So then we'll get a little bit of color there. And I'll hold this at an angle so the light is not reflecting off of it so much after. Pilot 4-in-1 wood. And then blue. Is that blue or is that green? Oh, when I put this on, I got all my colors mixed up. So there we go. Okay, I'll have doing this here so we can see them all three side by side. So in terms of on this Canopus paper, the uni writes a little bit smoother. This has a little bit sharper of a writing feel to it, so it's a little bit more, it's a firmer press on the page, I guess you might say. The Lamy has a little bit more give. Okay, so let's get this off here and let's try and get this where we can hold this up. So you can see they're it's the Uni 4-in-1, the pure malt, it's a little bit thicker of a line, but the 4-in-1 Pilot, it's a little bit more vibrant of a blue. And then the Lamy 2000 with the Uni, it's almost more of a navy than it is a bright blue. And you can kind of see that if it focuses there. Yeah, the Pilot, I think of the three, it's, if you don't like the 4-in-1, Pilot would be the next one I would say. It's less expensive, and I think Pilot also sells individual refills. So if you like that format, then you can get away with changing it. Because the other one you might look at if you're wanting multi-pin is you could always go with something like a Coletto and then choose the inserts you want in there. So if you need blue for like your drawing lines or something in the shop, you could do a blue in 0.3, a blue in 0.5, in different tip sizes on the same pin and make a purpose-built pin, really depending on what your use case is. But hopefully that's helpful since I happen to have all three of those sitting here. Hey, average pin guy, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. So yeah, that was pretty much going through those. And I think I'm going to leave y'all there. It's hitting on 7 o'clock. And, definitely don't forget, go check out Addy at Stationary Stack. They both have pencils, Dragon Drawer. They are both, that's what the 4+1. Which one here? So on this one, you push down the clip to get the pencil. And this one, you also push down the clip. It's almost like they're making competing products for their market. So both of them have a 0.5 millimeter mechanical inside of them. And I know I have the pure malt, and the whole reason I bought the pure malt because I had the bamboo one at first, and when I went to Jamaica, I was using the mechanical pencil on that with the watercolor stuff, and that was last April. And I still have the eraser cap, and the pencil found its way to the beaches of Jamaica, and it lives there now. Or some Jamaican is using it, and they're having a great writing experience, is what I like to think. So And I was kind of going back and forth because Gentleman Stationer had just gotten in the pure malt. It's like, oh, that's more of my color scheme. I really want that one. I can't justify buying another one. Of course not. And then I lost the one. I was like, oh, okay. The world has spoken. I'm getting the pure malt one. So I picked that up when I got home. But yeah, so appreciate you spending some time. And don't forget, I do have the YouTube channel membership now. And I think there's 4 people in here, a couple in chat who have upgraded to the $9.99 a month plan of support. And after 10 months, they're going to end up with a pen made by me. And it could be out of one of these crazy materials here. Who knows? But really looking forward to that. I'm really enjoying making pins and, having a weekend that I was forced to stay home and lock myself in the shop was a good feeling. And I had 5 pins to show for it. I'm feeling good. So as always, appreciate you tuning in. Next week, we'll see. I'm going to, Rahul, just for you, I'm going to try and eyedropper that pin this weekend over this next week. And I'll give an update next week. And then hopefully you and David can meet up if you're at Drum Goals, get some nib grinds and whatnot. Great to see everybody. Some of you I haven't seen in a while. Glad to have you here. Most Thursday nights doing the same thing, 6 p.m. Central. And look forward soon for the announcement of the DWRD Net Stationary Feed Season 2 actually being released. So until that, leave you there. Have a good evening, and I'll catch you on the next time.